Welcome back to another episode of Resistance Radio. We are here today with Amy Donahue, a candidate for Congressional District number 4 in Wisconsin. And interestingly, this is actually the second candidate that we've had on that we actually met because of the pod. First being Ryan Clancy, and I believe shortly after that video, I saw Amy Donahue followed us, so I clicked on their profile to see what they were all about, and I'm like, ooh, interesting. And now you're here. So tell us about a little bit about yourself.
I'm Amy Donahue, they, she, he. I use all pronouns rolling, which I learned is like sort of the short way to say alternate them, like use all of them. I am non binary, and the way that I identify is like all genders rather than
Yeah.
neither. I'm 43 years old. It's like I have stories and connect to things through stories in a lot of ways. So it's hard to start like my story. But I am not from Wisconsin originally. I grew up on the East Coast and mostly upstate New York and central Pennsylvania. And my dad is from Brooklyn, grew up, never left until he like went to medical school in Albany, and then he met my mom there, and she's from upstate New York. So my grandparents were like rent controlled apartment in Brooklyn, and then dairy farmers, like very poor in upstate New York. So I'm not from Wisconsin, but it's now home, and there's a lot of connections there.
Yeah.
That's how it was for me too. I'm not from here either.
Yeah. But I've lived in Wisconsin now or longer than I've lived anywhere else in my life. So, yeah, I ended up going to college, undergrad in Iowa, and then went to grad school to get my Master's of Library and Information Science in Seattle at the University of Washington. Then I went from there to a year in Washington, D.C. Then I lived in the Twin Cities for a year, then Madison, and now Milwaukee. So, yeah, 15 years in Milwaukee, 16 total in Wisconsin.
There's something about Wisconsin, and I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit more, but it's a very interesting state in a lot of ways. I think that we have this, kind of perception here that, like, it's a lot. It is a bluer area, but it's like some of the issues and things are different. And I feel like what we've heard from a lot of people is that they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've spent not a ton of time in Green Bay, and y'all
Yeah.
can correct me because when I first moved here, that everyone was like, "You're not from Wisconsin," but I think I did it okay there. I would say Green Bay.
Oh, okay. Yep, yep.
And I didn't hear it, but now I hear it and I say it correct, like have the accent on the right spots. But we actually, my co-parent and I, this was probably 3 years ago, but we came up for like a vacation just to get away and like not Door County because we can't really afford that or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like came up to Green Bay to like explore outside the stadium and to get good beer, and just got an Airbnb. I went to the train museum, spent like I think
Ooh,
Oh
4
yeah.
days. So yeah, I loved it. It felt more like what I was used to growing up because I mostly lived in small towns until I got to Seattle. So
What's it been like going from kind of small town to, urban? Like Seattle is high on my bucket list of places to go, mostly because of the wokeness there.
Oh yeah.
Like it has this reputation of like, I mean, shit, that's where the Black Bloc originated.
Yeah.
How has that kind of influenced your worldview a little bit, if it has?
that's a good question. And I would say that everywhere I've lived just has had a different influence. Sort of not being from anywhere, but culturally, I went to high school in Pennsylvania, so like central Pennsylvania, sort of culturally, what I feel. And that's like a different type of small town where they're not like super rural farm towns and they're not suburbs. So I grew up in places that were like 1 to 3 hours away from small, medium, and huge cities, like 3 hours away from New York City. And so just knowing that all of these places and being really able to see it. I also lived in Gainesville, Florida. So I did live in a city for a couple of years. That was in middle school. Horrible experience for various reasons. But Gainesville was in many ways like a really important place where I learned a lot and made some really good friends. But it just wasn't for me as somebody from small town upstate New York, suddenly in like summer weather all the time and like Florida.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah. But if anyone from Florida is listening, though, like there's so many amazing people there as well.
Oh yeah.
And so that's like the thing that I got from all these places. There's so many people doing amazing work, and everywhere has their own problems. And how people are able to speak about them differently or like interact with them is sometimes the thing. So like in Seattle, the discussions around racism and history in some ways were better and in some ways were worse. Like, so the history of Japanese internment there, like I had friends who were children or grandchildren mostly of, and then their parents were the children of people who had been interned by our government. And also it's like super rich because everyone works for Amazon and Microsoft or else you're barely getting by. And
yeah.
like, so it's, I couldn't afford to live there anymore. But yeah, the way that people talked about it in Seattle was in some ways more transparent, but in other ways also people like feeling like they were better than other places in the country. That was like, that's not true. I have
Interesting.
seen, like, yeah. And again, these are kind of generalizations, and I
Right.
kind of really hate those. So it's really hard for me to like do those, but it's also good practice. And our
Yeah.
human brains like patterns and kind of like needing to start from that sort of generalized area to drill down. So
Oh yeah, especially those of us that are neurospicy.
yeah. But coming back to Milwaukee, it's like the perfect size. It's near to Chicago, but not Chicago, so I can get out. So my family lives on both coasts. I'm actually currently sitting in the state of Delaware, and it's my co-parents' family, but it's amazing, and they're my family, so here I am. But yeah, Milwaukee is the perfect size, and it's also not like just a college town. So I never lived in Iowa City, for instance, but I had graduated. But my parents moved there, and my little sisters lived there, and so I go back home a lot. And it's a college town. Like it just feels like a college town. And Madison
Yeah.
feels in some ways very similar, but it's got the capital, so it's a little different.
Yeah.
But Milwaukee doesn't have those like. It has government. It's the county seat. It has UWM, which is amazing, and I went there. But it's not like one thing that's kind of like the center of the town.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I love about it. That feels great, and also is big enough to have neighborhoods and good food and exciting things going on.
Yes.
There's this funny little geographic thing. Well, the real true thing is that I love that it's by the lake. Like water is
Oh, yeah.
life. Being from the coast, living in Seattle, I was like, I thought I couldn't live in the Midwest after going to college in Iowa. I was like, I can't actually do this. And then I discovered Milwaukee, and yes, it's amazing.
Hell yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
the parks, it's such a great place, and then so many amazing organizations doing really great work, and that gets kind of why I'm doing some of this. So yeah, and running for.
Speaking of Milwaukee, you are running for Wisconsin's 4th congressional district, which traditionally speaking is a fairly safe D seat. Like I don't know exactly how the redistricting is going to affect anything, but it's the kind of seat that the real election is actually the primary. And you are not running an uncontested primary. You are running against Gwen Moore, who has been in office since 2004. And I am admittedly not very familiar with her, but I looked over her record and she seems at least somewhat progressive. So I've got to ask, what made you decide this is the year I've got to run, and what made you decide that you can do a better job than Gwen Moore?
I think I'll start by saying that this is like we're not used to having a real choice. I think
Yeah.
I'm not, and
Yes,
I'm
no.
No.
43. I've been voting. It's always been the lesser of two evils.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And so I don't know. This is an opportunity to be like a real choice.
Yeah.
That said, there are real differences and motivations for why I'm running, or a little bit of like how I got there. So I'm a pro-Palestinian organizer. I'm German-Irish. I didn't talk about that part of my history, but there are parts of that story that play directly into things that I am doing. A generalization, but a common
Yeah.
one, that folks in Wisconsin who are German are generations. I am not. My dad's, I'm 4th generation. My
Oh, wow.
grandmother came over from Germany. So the German part came over in between World War I and World War II because of economic reasons.
Makes sense.
I have relatives who are Nazis. Like, I don't know who they are, but I
Yeah.
know that. I grew up being like, we're not proud to be German. We don't have German fests where I'm from because of that. So I like,
Yeah.
It's like never again meant never again. People
Right.
are saying that and have always said that, but like I also grew up that way. And then I didn't tie it to Palestine, Israel for a while. But anyway, so I've got into these pro-Palestinian, organizing circles. I'm one of the founding members of Healthcare Workers for Palestine in Milwaukee.
Hell
Hell
yeah.
yeah, shout out.
Yeah. With some amazing other folks. And started learning about and was also as part of like there's a coalition, there's the Wisconsin Coalition for Justice in Palestine.
Yep.
W4P is also in there. But like we, as you know, then we do a lot of work together. And one of the things that was happening is the Block the Bombs bill. It comes in and out of my head, HR 3569. That was originally sponsored and put forward by an amazing representative in Illinois, Delilah Ramirez. So Mark Pocan signed on to that pretty quickly, co-sponsored, but Gwen Moore has not. She will not. She has told us she won't. So for 2 years, we were working on this. And then so conversations started happening about like, in some ways, we need somebody for the anti-war folks because they're not going to vote for Gwen anymore. They're kind of done
Yeah.
with it. And so I was part of a couple of folks. We were going around kind of asking people we knew. I've been doing some like electoral politics things, and so I started to make some friends. And so it was a part of like direct asks to some folks. But no one was able to challenge her in those circles for various reasons. And I had started my own small business, independent healthcare practice as a genetic counselor. So I had this time. It's complicated and so strange, but because of how my divorce happened, I was able to get my retirement funds out with the original idea of like using them for my business. Which is what they're ostensibly supposed to be doing anyway. It's not a ton of money. It was 100 and something thousand. So that's what I've been living off of. And I had this flexibility. And I was like, well, if I want to see somebody do this, I'm going to start thinking about doing it myself. It's just coming back to the question of like, why me? Why vote for me? Why am I better than Gwen Moore? Gwen Moore has also stopped signing on to Medicare for All. And that is like,
That's
a
also-
thing that
yeah.
I've been organizing around my entire adult life and working for, just like advocating for as a person. And then there's other things like she has done really great work, and I have been to her events. I have supported her and still would if she was the only candidate, but I wanted to see something more. Like that's kind of the thing. Like we can have even better. And now, like I am not taking PAC money. I
Yes,
also
love to see
I
it.
will just say that like people told me $50,000 is what I needed. I've raised 12,000 and I'm really proud of that, but I am running a congressional campaign that's real, that people are taking seriously without needing a ton of money. The reasons that's kind of working does have to do with the fact that Congressional District 4 is not even all of Milwaukee County. It's most of Milwaukee County, but it's a pretty compact district. And I'm embedded in my community in all sorts of ways. So I'm just leveraging those networks and that smaller
Sweet.
geographic area. So like it was just kind of this conglomeration of seeing the need, having the time and space, having the networks, having some knowledge a little bit.
We have talked to a wide variety of people, and we're seeing now in real time kind of this shift where a lot of the progressive, right, DSA akin candidates, whether they're not, they're DSA members, but that type of candidate that are really kind of grabbing on and taking advantage of the leverage that you have as an organizer. And I think that that's something that is really unique, and that it's something that we haven't really seen, at least as long as I can remember, in politics. Because like you were mentioning, it's usually like it's just a money race. How much money can you get? You just need the more money. And obviously money, that's not to say that it isn't important in the race, but like like a lot of us that are in these communities that are organizing have so many connections with so many people. But I'm curious about the healthcare workers for Palestine, because I think that, one of the biggest ways that I try to talk about Palestine is tying things into people's material lives. So it seems like something that I think a lot of people that aren't aware of the issue and the broader impact of imperialism would see that and wonder kind of what the deal is.
The big things are just that when we're looking at, like, as healthcare workers on the ground and seeing hospitals bombed, like that should be not okay anywhere. Like no one's safe. If like our
Right.
hospitals are not safe, our patients are not safe. If other hospitals and patients can be bombed, like that's supposed to be, that's a war crime. And this ties to Medicare for all. Like that's it's, ultimately there it will save us money. There's all those pieces too, but
Right.
when our taxpayer dollars, money that we think is going to things for us, is going
Yep.
to buy those bombs that are murdering children, adults, families, destroying family lines, like that is morally and materially like we're connected to that directly.
Yes.
And as healthcare workers, especially, it was just really easy, right? Because we're supposed to do no harm.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's just the blanket argument. And yet the American Medical Association, for instance, has never said anything. And they have,
Really.
for the last several years, like have silenced and censored people within their ranks who have spoken against Israel and have named the genocide. There's various actions and campaigns happening right now to get Israel out of the World Medical Organization, and to have the American Medical Association also put their weight, because they're a huge lobbying organization, to put their weight behind things like freeing Dr. Sam Abu Safia, who's a pediatrician it's like a fairly well-known photo of him walking up towards the tanks. He was the last doctor who saved.
Yes.
He's been
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
prison.
Yeah.
He's been held. His health is deteriorating. He is still in there along with a few other. They released some healthcare workers. Yay. But there's a number of them still in Israeli captivity, and they're in the like recent-ish, like the news cycles happen so fast. I think this was a couple months ago that like the Palestinians can just be killed, can be hung, like without like I don't know the details exactly, but he's in that danger as well of just being like, he hasn't been charged with anything, but he
Yeah.
could still just end up. So there's a lot of efforts around that, and so that those are our colleagues. We're not supposed to, like, Doctors Without Borders is a famous NGO. Like it doesn't. We just help people. We have to stand up
Yeah.
for each other to make sure we can help people.
And especially, in Milwaukee as of late, you had Salah Sarsour, who was arrested by ICE, right? Like not even like this is a Palestinian person that's like not even in Palestine,
Yep.
right? Like is in the United States and is arrested by ICE, who a lot of the ICE gets training from.
It's also the piece of like wanting to be in community with the people that I'm caring for as a healthcare worker, and to get the trust of the community. Like again, there's an outreach component to the work I've done, and this goes back to when I was a librarian too. Like I can't untangle those things, and
Yeah.
even if there's disagreement and conflict, that's fine. But like I want to push for those conversations, and that like it was just like, no, you can't have those conversations, and you can't share these resources with your colleagues. That if like because when the genocide first started, it was like there were some, and I think it's continued, but there were like webinars, like free webinars for people who were just like feeling the weight of this, and I shared that in like my team chat, and then was like told I was being anti-Semitic.
Just because we got to point it out every single time because there's someone who doesn't understand it. Anti-Semitism is criticizing people because of their race or religion. Anti-Zionism is critiquing the actions of the state of Israel. Those
Yeah.
are not the same thing.
No.
And this wasn't even either of those. This was me
Right.
sharing a resource for people who were impacted by the violence of everything that was happening.
That's
But
insane.
because- yeah.
We've asked every candidate we've had so far this question. It sounds simple. It's actually hard. I think only one candidate so far has had like an instant ready to go answer. But say you get any three policies you want, no compromise, they're just law. What are your three?
Medicare for all. There's a tax law that for taxing the ultra rich. I don't remember the number for that one, but Medicare for all is 3069. There is a bill that's specific for defunding ICE. So
Hell
all
yeah.
of those things, so blocking the bombs, the only reason why I'm not saying that is because all of those things take back our tax dollars. So if we're doing those things, we're
Right.
defunding the Department of Defense and ending those too.
I love all of those because they're not only like popular things, but they're things that also, like we had talked a little bit before, like materially make people's lives better, as well as helping, our brothers and sisters across the ocean. Something that I wanted to kind of talk about because it was near and dear to my heart as a kid was going to the library. And we are lucky in Green Bay that we have a good amount of libraries. And I don't think people realize libraries are very important. And could you maybe explain kind of the importance of funding libraries and like libraries themselves?
I will start by clarifying that I was one of those academic librarians. That's where I worked specifically in the medical field. So that's how I
Okay.
went from being so I was a medical librarian and then wanted to help
Got it.
patients directly. So I went back to school
Got
to
it.
become a genetic counselor, a like direct
Yeah.
clinical provider. But I did also work in hospitals, so a little different, not quite an academic librarian. There's part of my origin story that where I'm like, I've been like in liberal circles my whole life, but it hasn't always been safe. So
Okay.
libraries and reading were like really important, and being able to imagine and get into spaces and just like see and imagine how life could be.
Yeah.
So there's Alachua County FreeNet, and the library would like help you learn how to use it and had classes, and it was like all ages and intergenerational. And so I was like in these various spaces and learning how this technology worked. And so that's what librarians do. The origin of the word comes from books, but it's about information, and it's about learning, getting access to information, which includes other people and just being in community. And as well as like databases and like all the electronic resources, because I don't
Yeah.
subscribe to my newspaper anymore. It's too expensive, but I know how to go to the library and get it through them. You can get access, whether it's the paper copy in the library or through their databases. I can get the newspaper articles
Sweet.
I'm looking for. So I use my public library constantly. And in fact, I applied for a part-time public library job. So fingers crossed that I get this
Yeah.
like, 1 day a
Yes.
week, like that I would absolutely love. But with the heat wave and everything, we
Oh.
were using the libraries are known cooling centers, and
Yeah.
it's great to just be in those spaces. And again, people were using the computers and the books and staying cool. It's not like, but that regardless, that's our taxpayer dollars at work. Like we should be able to like use the library for all the
Yes,
things it can
right.
be used for. And again, the community events that are happening there that can be done, and it's a neutral space. It's always been a space where it's like, you can't necessarily favor one side over the other, but it's never been a place where you ignore that it happens. Like at least for me, I've never
Right.
been
Right.
in libraries
Yeah.
where it's like, well, we can't be partisan and we can't like have partisan events or whatever, but like public libraries are spaces where like we know that politics is happening and obviously policies impact libraries. So
Yes.
Yep.
yes, and so we need continued funding for libraries, and that's another like original data centers. This is a conversation that was happening. I was at the so there's a smaller, they're calling it a high performance computing or computer research center, but it's a data center. It's just small. Libraries are like, we are transparent in the data we provide and how we provide it, and who gets to use it, which is everyone.
Leftists and progressives in particular, we've kind of got a reputation for infighting all the time. My proposal is that instead of bickering over the details, we have hard lines. Like the DSA, one of their hard lines is that they will not endorse any candidate that takes APAC money.
Yep.
And from listening to you, I can surmise that some of your hard lines would probably be Palestine and Medicare, but I was wondering what other hard lines would you have that would just make you go, hell no, I cannot support this person.
I feel like a lot of times you just need one hard line. You
Yeah,
know,
really.
and like once, like, you know, like there was protests that were happening in DC about the genocide where they were like, this is the red line. Like, this is, oh, if you support genocide, you know, so like,
There's more than one way to be a complete shitbag, though.
Yeah.
true.
So that would be trans people are like that's just we're all people. I'm a person. So like, and I am who I am. So if you don't accept that, that's a hard line. With I will say like a little caveat of like sometimes language is hard for folks, and even like
Yeah.
as a genetic counselor, I actually had like older generation, like the people I'm learning from, trans people that or my patients or people who identified who didn't use the word trans and would use language that is really offensive to younger trans folks, but they are trans
Yeah.
and they're family members. But yeah, it's hard to go into those nuances, but like there are
Right.
language things that's not it's not the language that's a red line. It's like the actual just ability to see people and trans people as people. There is another bill, the thing that I would pass. It doesn't immediately change material conditions, but HR 40 is the reparations for African Americans bill. It is a committee. It's to fund a committee to explore what reparations would look like, and what that would mean. It commits us, the United States, to reparations, but it doesn't, it's the first step. That's my understanding of it and like looking through it. And there's a resolution, HR 414, that specifically kind of points to why. Like these are all the reasons why we have to do It's very long, and I started crying about 2 paragraphs into it because
Wow.
it's just so much. And so sorry, I have a fourth one.
I think that's come into conversation recently with, I believe it's defunct now, but the J6 slush fund.
Is still up in the air, but also that's basically what the 400 billion that Trump sent Iran in the deal. That's reparations.
Yeah, I guess.
We've also given reparations to lots of people, including Japanese Americans. The only group that we seem to have a problem giving it to is black people. I wonder why.
Interesting, yeah. What has been kind of like the thing that you have loved the most about campaigning, and then like the thing that was like the biggest surprise to you, um, once you started like actually being on the campaign trail?
Love having spontaneous conversations with people and how much easier it is in some ways to have those conversations by just starting with, hey, I'm running for Congress. Have you heard of me? Like, what's important to you? And just like, those are the things that I love to know about people anyway, but it's like it usually takes more small talk. So being able to just
Yeah.
say, hey, I am running for office and I'm like here. I've always loved having one-on-one conversations. And that's like, as a librarian, as a genetic counselor, and now as a candidate, that's what I do. So those are, and it usually face to face. I like having all the visual cues. But I did. So as a GC as well, I did telehealth. So like I'm actually gotten fairly good at phone calls and everything.
Phone
But
calls are hard.
yeah. But that so it depends on the purpose of the phone call. So like there are ways that I am avoiding things, as my therapist would say. I've got some of that avoidance of like I could be in some ways doing a better job of cold calling folks. Like I have a couple voter lists or whatever, and calling folks to ask them to donate, and that being part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And my organizing as well has been a lot of one-on-ones. How Healthcare Workers for Palestine started is like just around the country. There was a petition that a few folks threw together, and then it started exploding, and the original organizers of that petition were like, well, we're just going to create a grassroots network. And so they connected everyone like in a geographic area who had signed it. So it like was just talking one-on-one with each of the other few people, and then we each were just bringing in other people slowly, and then the message was getting out. And still not a huge group. And I think that does speak to the thing that's hardest for me, which is like just getting groups of people organized and out there. So I've been running this campaign in like a non-traditional way that's sort of my own, because I cannot go down that mental health road that I have before, which
Yeah.
was partially based on my job and those like really hard things, but was also just like me trying to be somebody I wasn't. So I'm trying to find folks to help with that more, and the time frame is so short, and that's also really hard.
Yeah.
I decided to do this race in January on my birthday. I was like, can I do this? And then it took a few more conversations, and then like filing and getting the signature, so that, like, that doesn't leave a ton of time. So yeah, I think that kind of answers the questions. But there's pieces of everything that I like and pieces of everything that I don't like, and
Yeah.
I'm proud of this campaign. Like whatever happens, like the people who have joined me and who have been learning things with me, where it's gonna the work will just keep going, and it's made a difference.
Hell yes.
I don't know, like no one can prove that this is true or whatever, but the very fact that like this is the importance of primaries and having challengers is like that means that the incumbent has to campaign and show up a little bit
Yep.
more. I think we all get complacent. I don't know what I would do if I was the incumbent, but like Representative Moore came down and visited Salah Salsour, and would she have done that if she wasn't like needed to show up for a Palestinian Muslim
Right.
community?
That makes sense.
So yeah, there's those little things that if my campaign had any impact on making that happen, yeah, we're doing the thing.
I haven't got an opportunity to use pronouns yet, so you're talking with Amy Donahue. They are running for Congress. She is running in Wisconsin's 4th District, and his opponent is
Gwen Moore.
Gwen Moore. Perfect.
You're welcome.
There, I got that out of the way. An interesting thing about organizing is that it teaches you a lot about yourself. Like when I did voter registration and phone banking, and I learned that I absolutely could not be a salesperson because like I could read somebody's body language and realize they weren't interested, and I could not make myself push them anyway. And there's
Yep.
other people that did not have that hang up. They noticed they didn't care. They're just, I'm getting those numbers.
Yeah, I did a sales job too, and it was awful.
If you're elected, what would you want to accomplish during your first term so you could consider it to be a success?
It takes time in Congress to build up the influence and everything. So definitely co-sponsoring all of the bills that would have that material impact and that align with my values and that are like pushing us in that progressive way, working class. So yeah, just signing on to everything I can in that way. And then being present in the state and using that federal kind of power to hold the other congressional candidates or electeds accountable. So like and it's my first term, but I can like visit just north of the Milwaukee County line and be like, hey, if it's the current incumbent who is reelected, I'm going to show up and be like, hey, your voters, they're here. What are you doing for them? Here's what I am doing. And really Medicare for all is what we all want. So like using that influence within the state as a federal elected. So making sure it is going both ways. And that can be done in the first term. There's also something called community funded projects. It's earmarks historically is what it is. It's that earmarked federal money that comes back to the district. This is something that I've learned on this campaign. Like I was like, no earmarks suck. They like benefit one small place at the expense of everywhere else. And I'm like, having lived lots of places, like this is our, like, we need to be lifting us all up. Like really lifting us all up. But these community funded projects, it's been reworked during, I think it was during COVID-ish is when it happened, because earmarks they were cut completely in 2017 or something like that. And then we needed them during COVID. And so there was a process that came back. And now they have to be tied to kind of federal goals and things. And I will note that the person I am running against has done some really brought in some of that money for like mental health and things like that, but has also brought in money for police infrastructure. And I want to make sure that that process has not been transparent, that I can see. Like I had to really, I was like, what have we gotten in after I learned about this funding? Like Ilhan Omar has an amazing part of her website that's fully this is how organizations can talk to me about getting this funding. Here's what the application process is. Here's how it works on my end in Congress. Here's the things that we've fought for. Here's what we've actually gotten.
I love her.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I'd make that happen. Like whatever, like at least make that process more transparent and clear and set the like benchmark there. So for Congressional District 4, which is Milwaukee as well as Brown Deer and West Allis and West Milwaukee and Wauwatosa, there's all these other municipalities that like we're all connected, and we need to make all those connections from the local to the government, as federal government,
Yes.
and again in both directions. So.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I will say one final thing, kind of along those lines. I'm not a career
Yeah.
politician, and I think it's worth noting that like I don't intend to like to get things done. Yes, more than one term would be ideal, but somebody should primary me if like
Yeah.
that second term.
Not
Primary
22
me right
years.
away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's have
They
keep
say
these
that-
conversations going and elect somebody better. Like if somebody else or somebody different enough that like people want to elect them. Yeah.
Yeah, I
so-
mean, they say that the best people to hold positions of power are the ones that don't really
Yep.
want that position.
That's my line.
I
Yep.
want to be
I
a
mean,
genetic
you're not
counselor.
the first
I
person to
love
say that,
being,
but-
yeah. That's yeah.
I get that because like I almost ran against Tony Weed, and then but the whole time I kept dallying because I was like I really don't want to work in DC.
I believe there's a line that Emma needs to say.
Oh yeah, I try to get a fuck Ronald Reagan in every episode, but sometimes I try to have it tie in, but since it didn't this time, fuck Ronald Reagan. But also, even though Pride Month's over, I don't know why I did that. Be loud, be proud, be unbowed.
Be queer, strike fear.
Get active, get wise, and get organized. What would your call to action be?
That like civic engagement is everything, and that's more than voting. So that's
Yes.
and it's beyond voting. And there's one thing, yeah. So be civically engaged. I'm working on getting some civic engagement resources up on my website. So like there were people at like the governor's forum who were talking about like, hey, I do send the emails. How do I hold you accountable? That's real civic
Yeah.
engagement. And then like showing up and holding electeds accountable. It's a muscle to flex, and
Yes.
we should be flexing it at all times. And I will say this controversial thing, which is that we as candidates should earn your votes. You do not have to vote for anyone. Like it's like there's a
Revolutionary concept.
yeah, it's not it sucks when people are not able to vote.
Yeah.
And it sucks when people are so disengaged that they don't do it. But if you make an intentional, informed choice to be like, hey, I'm researching and none of you cut it for me.
Yes.
Just not
Yeah.
voting is an option. It always is. And there's other people saying that so well. So,
Slay. I love that.
and one little shout out as well. It is now Disability Pride Month. So, yes.
Yes.
The Disability Pride flag is amazing, and I won't go into all the look up the colors and what they mean. And it's always be proud of everything all the time, and also it's always good to kind of have a time to maybe focus. So here's to Disability Pride this month.
But yeah, we would absolutely love to have you on again. This has been great talking with you.
Awesome. I would
2028
love
supposed to be you,
sing.
me, and Peyton.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching an episode of Resistance Radio.
Peace.